Gunshot.
Indeed.
All right, we are back for episode number 19, and this one is a true crime.
It is.
All right, who are we? I am Tom Daly here with my good friend, the Doctor of History, Shawn McCarthy. And this is the Tell Me a Story podcast, which we do every week on YouTube and Spotify. And we're going to talk about a very interesting story today, aren't we, Shawn?
Yeah, we're going to talk about not only one murder, but two murders.
Two murders.
And that's it, in the same house,
Whoa.
9 years apart. And that house just happens to be the house my grandparents lived in.
There you go. The murder house of Nelson belongs to his grandparents, where, yeah, people
now,
just
my grandparents weren't living there at the time, but my grandfather's, I think it's his great uncle, was living there. So it was in my extended family. So that's it. Yeah. But through some research, I found out about the later one in 1888, and then I found out that in 1879 there was another one. So
Wow.
that's it. Yeah.
All right, so Shawn, take it away. Since this is your family house, you have lots of information. You recently written a book of short stories, haven't you?
Yes, that's right. And and the first one's included in this, and I'm gonna do a second one. Spoilers, and that'll be then the second one will be in that one.
Nice. All right, so
yeah. So we're gonna start in 1879, but we're not gonna stay in 1879 for too long because Tom, I'm gonna ask you. You remember? Not too awful long ago, maybe about 6-7 years ago. We were at the Black Horse. We were coming back, and we happened to stop at a local Nelson pub,
Oh, I know where this is going already.
for a late night,
Yes.
just
You know where I'm going.
exactly.
I can't do it.
So anyway, it was an odd experience. Apparently somebody was smoking some cocaine.
Smoking that cocaine out back.
That's it.
That would be crack, sir. Cocaine that you smoke is crack.
Exactly. So, in 1879, two fellas, who by the name of William Connick and John Hanley, were coming through Nelson, and they were in at Matt Carroll's store, which is where these things took place. And they were joined that night by two brothers, Joseph and James Marr, from Barnaby.
Semi-Wagon Ridge.
Semi-Wagon Ridge. That's right. That's true. That's true.
Even worse.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, no, these pieces of shit, and I blame them. I totally blame them 100% for the prohibition, which is going to be enacted here because of the poor decisions they made. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, they ruined it for everyone.
So the Marr brothers are there, and they say to Matt Carroll, "Hey, listen, we're heading out. Can we have one for the road?" And Matt Carroll says, "I don't know." And they say, "Oh, come on, one, and we'll go." So he says, "All right, one, and we'll go." And then Connick and Hanley say, "Yeah, well, count us in too. We'll." Anyway, so they go into the bar because there's a bar next to this store because he's got a license. So they have a drink, and then the Marr brothers say, "Listen, would it be better for us? This is March. Would it be better for us to take the road to Barnaby and on a semi-wagon, or would it be better for us to go down because the house is right next to the river, to go down onto the ice and drive home that way?" Matt Carroll really isn't sure. He's never done one or the other. So, I guess he's maybe only ever taken the road. So he says, just take the road. That's the way I know best. So they leave.
Yeah, March. That's pretty late in the year.
It is. It's the 25th, I think. So
that's pretty. What are they driving at this time? This would be horse and wagon.
It would be. Yeah. Horse and sleigh, I guess, or something. That's it. So that's it. They leave, and they're rigging their horse up, and then Connick and Hanley, so William Connick, John Hanley, they're getting ready to go. Now, by Matt Carroll's statement, William Connick is, a little sleepy, a little drowsy, maybe. The liquor's kind of kicking in on him. So that's it. So he tries to kind of stimulate himself, and he lights up. He's gonna have a smoke here and kind of get some nicotine into him and whatever. And so Matt Carroll's sister says, "Listen, if you're gonna smoke, please do it outside. And so William Connick says, yeah, all right, listen, I'll just go then. I'll smoke outside, and then I'm just going to keep on my way. So everything's kind of shutting down in the Carroll house for the night. Until not 5 minutes after he's gone, William Connick is beating on the door, trying to get back in. Let me in. And they figure like, he's drunk. That's it. So they let him in, and he's freaking out, saying that, that this Joseph Marr stabbed him. And it turns out, he's got a cut in his pants. So what happened in those 5 minutes? So depends on who you ask. So Joseph and James Marr say, that William Connick and John Hanley tried to rob them. And so they just defended themselves. Now, John Hanley says everybody was leaving, and William Connick, I guess, kind of spooked Joseph Marr's horse. And then Joseph Marr took off his coat, said, I got a job to do, and then apparently started to wrestle around with William Connick, which is apparently when he gets stabbed. And John Hanley's wrestling with James Marr, ends up struggling with Joseph Marr. He looks at his coat afterward, and his coat's all cut to hell. So, and then the Marr brothers take off.
Slashing. They're just like
I guess so, yeah. That's it. William Connick is now in the kitchen of the Carroll home, whom he's got a cut in his pants. So they say, okay, listen, get the doctor. So they go get the doctor. This is in the middle of the night. And of course the doctor, they have to go overland to get the doctor. The doctor's in Newcastle. So the doctor comes back and then, says, okay, listen, we got to take your pants off, whatever. And there's a cut just below his waist, and there's 4 inches of his guts coming out through this. That's it. So the doctor then proceeds to examine him. And of course, this is happening in 1879 kitchen.
Yeah.
So
this is not the cleanest place to be doing this.
Not at all. Plus, this doctor's a general practitioner. He's not a surgeon, so he's doing the best that he can. Now he says that the intestines are not perforated. They're nicked, but they're anyway. So he decides that the best thing to do is get those back in there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
We hope it's. And then
we hope there's some scrubbing and disinfecting first.
That's it. Probably not as much as William Connick is hoping that there's some of that. But but anyway, so even though he doesn't live very far away, they figure, the doctor says, listen, it's probably best that we keep him here. But within 3 days, he's dead. Whatever, that's it. So they get a hold of Joseph Marr. They bring him in. They try him. And basically the whole thing kind of hinges on the fact that the day after it happened, Joseph Marr says, listen, the blow that I struck William Connick wouldn't be enough to kill him. So that basically amounts to a confession, and even though his defense attorney basically tries to turn it on the doctor, says, listen, this, you could have just as easily killed him by poking your finger in there and whatever. The doctor kind of tries to fight back and says, no, I did the best that I could under the circumstances, and the bowel wasn't perforated and whatever. So anyway, so that's it. But since alcohol was involved in this, and Joseph Marr gets sentenced, I think, to 7 years in prison, because even though the judge says that he'd like to sentence him to, a longer term, or I'm not even sure if it's, I suppose it would be capital case, so he could have sentenced him, the possibility. But apparently his mother, pleaded with the judge, and so so he commuted, I guess, his sentence to 7 years in the prison in Dorchester.
Okay, so he actually did the 7 years.
He did 7 years, yeah.
All right.
That's it. But they say, to your point earlier, that this was one of the reasons why Prohibition came in only the next year in 1880. So they figured that was one of the reasons why. So
Wow.
that's that story.
So so he actually did say I didn't. He basically said I didn't stab him. I just scratched him with my knife or something. It sounds like if he's
Well, yeah, he said, well, whatever, or I guess if I stabbed him, I didn't stab him like, anywhere,
Yeah.
like so that
Yeah,
would
yeah.
kill him, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. Yeah.
All right, so let's try to. I'm just thinking of seeing. Nothing can prepare you for seeing your own intestines because I saw mine after
Okay,
surgery.
well, there you go.
And yeah, it's just like wow. That image of this that doctor pushing that in.
Sure.
It's gonna,
yeah. I mean, it's probably shock as much as anything,
Yeah.
right? Could probably probably would have been detrimental to his health, maybe even caused his end.
Yeah.
As much as anything, right?
Oh yeah.
That's it.
So did they know each other before this? Somewhat, or
I get the impression that, I guess they might have been familiar with one another, but I don't think there was, I don't think they were great friends or anything.
No.
But yeah, that's it.
So I guess try to unpack this. They said this one drink, one for the road or whatever. It's either a very incredibly strong drink, or they've been drinking all along.
Possibility.
And they were just telling the guy this, or 'cause it's weird, but you're trying to figure why. You know what I mean? Made them fly off the handle that way.
Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I can think of is maybe, sometimes I guess, there's kind of that high adrenaline situation if, the horse starts panicking and whatever, and you're just kind of wound up, maybe you just kind of carried it too far, or
I guess.
who knows.
Yeah.
But that's it. And, William Connick, scared the horse. Did he do it on purpose? You know what I mean?
True. Scare the horse, and he planned to rob them or whatever they thought was going to happen. Yeah.
Or I mean, if he's kind of being affected by the alcohol, in the house, by the sounds of it, is it a situation where he just sort of his inhibition is kind of low, so he just does something crazy and just
maybe so.
The horse, you know what I mean? Whatever. But yeah, that's it. So 7 years in the Dorchester Penitentiary for Joseph Marr. William Connick unfortunately passes away. James Marr, we don't really hear much about, and John Hanley is kind of the chief witness for the prosecution in this. And Matt Carroll, unfortunately has to deal with the fact that there was a person that was murdered.
That might be good for business.
Probably not. Probably not.
Let's go to the store up the road instead.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So, but things only get worse, I guess, because 9 years later, it happens again.
Oh, wow.
So now, this time it doesn't happen inside the house. It just happens in the street outside, which I guess for Matt Carroll is good. For Nelson, not so great. Now you've got stabbings, you've got shootings. This one is a shooting. So this time it is a town, I guess a county police constable by the name of Isaac Jackson, and a worker from Rogersville by the name of John O'Brien. So John and his brother Patrick, so we got another set of brothers here. They're heading toward Rogersville, so heading in the same direction even. So, so they're heading to Rogersville, they're heading home, they're heading back from Chatham, and they pass through, and they're gonna stop at Matt Carroll's store. Across the street is Henry Gitchell's post office, and Isaac Jackson is there. Now, apparently, even though Prohibition is in force at this time in 1888, everybody's drinking.
Yeah, more than ever.
That's it, exactly. Nelson, of course, famous as a rum hole.
The rum hole. That's a great name for a bar. Yeah.
Nobody pays attention to the law there. People are bootlegging right, left, and center. The Temperance Society is afraid to meet in Nelson, so they have to meet in Derby Junction instead, across the river. So, yeah. But by everybody's account, even though they say that Isaac Jackson has been drinking, but he's only been drinking beer, so he hasn't drinking anything hard. So, that's, it's okay.
No one ever got drunk off with just beer, did they?
Exactly. That's it. So apparently there had been some trouble between Patrick O'Brien and Isaac Jackson in the past. Patrick O'Brien felt that, he was kind of being pursued needlessly by Isaac Jackson, yeah. So they get into it, in kind of a verbal argument. John O'Brien steps in, and at this point, everything kind of goes hellways and crooked. And they end up, John O'Brien and Isaac Jackson end up fighting in the street. And apparently, John O'Brien's getting the better of it, and Isaac Jackson pulls out a gun and shoots him. Now the bullet passes through his lung and lodges in his back, and John O'Brien takes a couple of steps and collapses and basically drowns, in his own blood, and dies. At this point, Patrick O'Brien, seeing the fact that you just shot his brother, comes over and just starts wailing on Isaac Jackson. Isaac Jackson's son, Anthony, who works at the post office, separates them, and the whole thing kind of goes from there. Obviously, Patrick goes to his brother, and the situation sort of de-escalates for the moment. But of course, Isaac Jackson is brought in for the shooting of John O'Brien, and the trial is held. And basically, the defense is basically saying, listen, he was in fear of his life. They get out the fact that apparently Patrick O'Brien and John O'Brien have been drinking all day. They started in Chatham. It took them 6 hours to get to Nelson. Because they were stopping along the way everywhere.
Okay, so they're doing a pub crawl.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah, that's it. So they basically bring out that John O'Brien, nice guy, but not a nice guy when he's drinking. So, that's it. The prosecution says, I guess the defense also brings up the fact that all these injuries that Isaac Jackson sustained, the prosecution says, listen, all of those injuries are accounted for by the fact that Patrick O'Brien beat the shit out of him after the shooting happened. So all those injuries have nothing to do with the fact that, he shot John O'Brien. So back and forth it goes. In the end, it's the judge, I think. When he charges the jury, he basically says, I don't believe that Isaac Jackson did this on purpose, but also he was not on duty, so he shouldn't have been carrying his gun. So really what you should find, the most you could find him for is manslaughter, and that's what they do.
Okay.
The jury is kind of divided for a while because there's a group that kind of wants to find him innocent because they're afraid that if they find him guilty, they're going to sentence him to a long prison term. And basically the crowd that think that he's guilty basically say that's not our job. Our job is not sentencing. Our job is, to render a verdict. But so they compromise and they find him guilty with a strong recommendation for mercy. And he gets 2 years in the Dorchester Penitentiary for what happened. Yeah.
Wow. So both of these guys, I guess, after they got out of Dorchester, did they come back here or did they go somewhere else?
I feel like Joseph Meyer did, but I don't think Isaac Jackson did.
No? Okay.
I don't think he come back to Nelson. I think he stayed in the area, but, and he died, I think it was probably in the early or the late, 19-teens, I think he died.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Meyer went to Dorchester and straight back to the Semi-Walking Ridge.
I think so.
Like nothing ever happened. God. Where were you the last 7 years?
You want to find out?
Knife and Meyer. It would be a place you could go back to after 7 years, so nothing would change either. So, yeah.
I suppose that's what family is, right? So, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cows don't care, I guess, if you spend 7 years.
That's it. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. You married yet?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? Yeah.
But it's quite something really to kind of think, obviously, today, Nelson, it's a pretty sleepy little community.
Oh, yeah.
But, to think that at one time, all these things are happening right out on the front street,
Yeah, really. And Semi-Walking Ridge, too. Like, we were friggin' murder. We should get this a tourism idea now. Let's promote this Meyer guy. See if we can turn it into a tour. Yeah, I'm wondering if he's buried in Barnaby Church now.
Maybe.
Or the graveyard there.
Yeah, maybe.
I have to look at the big stone and see. What was his name again?
Joseph.
Joseph Meyer.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to do some snooping around, see if I can find his grave. How I can capitalize on it.
But I think spelled M-E.
Yeah, it's more like Meager.
Yeah.
I never knew how to pronounce that name.
Yeah.
Yeah. pronounced Mar, but it's spelled more like Megar or something.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Interesting stuff, Sean. Yeah, so that's really cool how you found that out. And how did you go about that? Did you like just digging a lot?
It just so happened, I think I came across it, came across the 1888 shooting when I was looking for something else. And I thought, oh, this is kind of interesting. And then found, oh, God, it's at my grandparents' house, you know. And then I think... I don't know where it was that I found the reference. This was the second shooting there, and I went back to 1879, and I found the stabbing, I guess.
Yeah, and then I guess since they were both like convicted and they knew who did it, it's not like an unsolved mystery where there's lots and lots of documents and all the court case and stuff you'd have to go through.
Yeah. So that's it. I guess, Tom. Maybe you've got a connection here too, because when Matt Carroll died, I mean that became Pete Bowen's store. That's
right. Yeah, some relatives of my mom's, Bowen's. I'm not sure exactly what connection, but definitely, they took over the store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. And then Pete Bowen sold it to my grandparents in '44, I think.
There you go. Yeah.
That's it. And Lizzie Bowen was living there at the time. I think that's Pete's sister.
Yep, the sister.
Yeah.
So we both have a connection to the murder house.
There you go.
Know.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And she asked famously that if she could leave a few things at the house, and my grandparents said yeah, and one of those things was her.
Wow. So interesting.
So she just stayed there
She just stayed there.
But I mean, the way that my uncles always told me was that she kind of became like an aunt or something to the family. Like she helped my grandmother with like the kids and whatever. And so
interesting.
Yeah.
Different,
I guess. Like I say, in those days, you know, like definitely different attitudes to those sorts of things. Like my great grandfather like switched houses, and that's how we came to Nelson, like the McCarthys. You know, they didn't want to be a farmer, so he just switched houses with the guy that was living on the front street in Nelson.
Just switched. Could you imagine? No,
Nothing. Today, like how much paperwork would you have to go through?
How much paperwork? To gift something like to give something away is a lot of paperwork. Let alone God. Oh my God! I'm just thinking of the amount of documents you'd have to go through,
and how much money you go through just to
getting that notarized, and how many lawyer having to explain yourself to.
Exactly. You know, and probably need to go through somebody in real estate or whatever. You know.
Yes, God, yeah.
It would be wild, but back in them days, just you want my house? I'll take your house.
Yeah.
Done.
Can you imagine? Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, you know, it's but that's it. But Nelson's certainly a much different community in those times. I mean, 12 different stores, 5 mills. You know,
isn't that something? It's so hard to believe.
It is. It really is. That's it.
Well, and there's never that many more streets. So, because Nelson, how many streets is there now? Like we're talking about St. Patrick's Drive, which is kind of your main drag through there, and that was,
And really, I mean, that was it.
That was it. I
don't think there was too many, like shops or anything like on the streets off of that.
Yeah.
You know, maybe maybe a couple, but not very many.
No.
You know.
But 12, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Huh. What was there anything back towards like the Nallenville area or anything like that? Was that
I think
that was all farmland.
It was all farmland, I think so. And it's funny, like you read some of those articles, like Nallenville, they write about it like it's the backside of the moon. You know, like there was a snowstorm, and like a week later, somebody came out from Nallenville to say everybody's okay. You know?
Can you imagine? Yeah.
We were wondering, but that's it.
Wild.
But even like I say, I mean, I think it's we're definitely getting into the local stuff now, but still, there's definitely that sense of all the way back in Allenville, or all the way out in Burnaby, or all the way in Renews, like again, not to say that they're not a little distance away, but they're not like so far, like
no, God, no.
But I think to people of a certain generation, like it feels like it's forever to get to Sunny Corner or whatever.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's even when because again, from where I grew up and from where you grew up, we're about a 20-minute drive
Yeah.
away or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't long.
No.
But yeah, so 20 minutes by car is nothing. But it's like, yeah, by horse and wagon, I suppose.
Yeah,
That would probably
true.
take a couple hours. But
True.
yeah, so
Yeah.
many people, it feels like today, just kept thinking it was like horse and wagon,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
amount of time.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. That's for sure.
So yeah, the murders of Nelson.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a couple of them. I think there were a fair few more, but
More to come, folks.
maybe who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. The rum hole strikes again.
It was.
Yeah.
It really was. That's it. You know, it was pretty wild in those times. People getting there's rumors that some of those big houses were built with bootlegging money.
Yeah?
You know? So yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I suppose the play that we're working on, by the time this comes out, the play might be over.
Yes, it might be.
So
but yeah, that's
yeah.
it. If you want to see it again, get a hold of us and commission us to do it for second time. Whispers and Wedding Bells. I'm gonna hope that it went over really well. That's it. You would be watching it and saying, "Oh, they didn't realize." You can tell they didn't know there was what was going to happen when they filmed this. But anyway. But hopefully not.
No.
But of course, like I say, that's just really the tip of the iceberg for what's going to be a really busy season
That's correct.
for us this year.
Yep. Lots going on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we have all sorts of murder-based material. The Headless Nun Tour, of course, about a nun who was murdered all the way back in the 1700s. The tours we do at French Fort Cove, the Dare the Dark Headless Nun Experience, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and at 9:30 p.m. Yeah, $20.
That's right.
We got all there.
You do.
And the new tour, which is coming this summer, is the Dungarvan Whooper. Yes, in Blackville. And starting price this year, just $15. And in the park there, in the Blackville area, we're going to tell the story about the murdered cook in the lumber camp, as well as a disturbed individual also who may have been the Dungarvan Whooper as well. So lots of check out there. And we have other stuff as well, don't we, Shawn?
Yes, indeed.
Some lighter fare.
Yes, true. That's true. Echoes of Newcastle every Thursday at 6:30, $20 at Ritchie's Wharf. A two-man show with the two of us. So very exciting. And, of course, a one-man show. Tom does Old Roots, New Blossoms every Sunday at Middle Island at noon, I believe, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Middle Island is quite a spot.
Mm-hmm.
Big mass grave. I don't talk about the Lushtak and all of the poor people that came over on those famine ships and never made it any further.
It's true.
And last but not least, a shout out for the man behind the camera, Creepy Dave, our producer for the show, the guy who carries the load. Is a great artist. Coffee Doodles by David Jardine. All sorts of quirky works of art. You can find them here on YouTube at Coffee Doodles by David Jardine. And link in the description below. Right, Dave? All right.
All right. With
Have we
that,
done it?
I believe we have. Thank you very much, Tom, for allowing me to kind of tell this
Thank you, Shawn.
this strange story that's connected to the both of us, I guess.
I just realized now. Damn it, I'm connected to the murder house too. We both are. Yeah.
That's right. So like, comment, subscribe, folks, and we will see you next week.
Cheers, everybody.